We're back with our continuing conversation with people on the front lines of community engagement. And I'm here today with a friend of mine of many years, Dahvi Wilson, who's Vice President for Public Affairs at Apex, which is a utility scale wind and solar developer. It's an independent company. It has $4.5 billion of clean energy investment it's made in 20 to 30 states. And I'm delighted to have Dahvi here, particularly because in the analysis that we did, Apex's program, which she runs, is perhaps one of the best in the industry right now. So, Dahvi, welcome.
Thank you.
Great.
I'm glad to be here.
One of the things we heard from people as we were producing the original analysis was that wind opponents organize online and then they show up in the room. Do you see that reflected in the experience of your staff?
Absolutely. And in fact, most of their pages are public. So we also know when they're organizing to show up in the room, which can be very helpful. It's definitely a source of information that we track very closely because opponents to the project do use Facebook as an organizing tool. But yes, they do. And what I feel like is particularly powerful about the Facebook platform for those who are fighting wind is that they very quickly become connected to other groups that are fighting wind elsewhere in the country. And what we see is a negative news story from any project around the country will get picked up by groups fighting wind elsewhere in the country over and over and over and over again. So bad news from any one of our projects hurts every other project. And this anti-wind network is so well connected that they've learned how to leverage that. It's expensive to hire somebody to help protect a project on the public acceptance side. But if we fail to do so and we don't get a permit as a result, that cost will far outweigh any cost of hiring a resource to help. And then there's just another theme that we've started to see is just delay. So even if they're not killing a project, they're often delaying a project significantly.
Any thoughts you want to share about the proper use of digital tools in overall community acceptance efforts?
Sure. So I would say that generally speaking, our industry is evolving and growing in regards to community acceptance in general. So real investment in community acceptance is not universal, and it's still growing. Apex has made a very large investment in this space, and so it's given us more capacity to try new tools. When it comes to digital, digital makes sense as a tool as part of a community engagement strategy. However, it's definitely a tool that takes time, takes resources, and definitely takes a strategy to implement well.
To the outside observer of what Apex does with community acceptance, what features are out there in the public but perhaps don't jump out at somebody that you think are hallmarks of a successful program?
I think the most important thing that we've learned over the last several years working on community acceptance is we have to proactively go find our supporters. We have to motivate them to engage, and we have to help them engage. And it's not enough to invite them to our events to get educated. It's not enough to expect that the people who really care will show up. It really is up to us to identify folks who may not even realize this issue relates to them and motivate them to come out and support. I think that in particular, this kind of recruiting element, this ability to go find people and figure out who is sympathetic to what you're talking about is actually one of the biggest values. It's almost like failing to be on social is sort of you're giving yourself a disadvantage if you're not there.
Dahvi Wilson of Apex, thank you so much for joining our ongoing conversation around Not Just for NIMBYs, the first ever look at the use of digital tools in building community acceptance for wind and solar projects. Thank you, Dahvi.
Thank you very much.